Hey everyone, we're back again, and it is time now for another episode of Cafe Verite, episode number 6. I'm Jay, your host and your barista for the day. Welcome to the show. We're showing you our video from Spro Coffee on 851 West 36th Street in the Hamden neighborhood of Baltimore. And as you may be familiar, this series is all about life behind the bar and how we make drinks and everything we're doing. So right now, the first drinks up are the house coffee with 2 vanilla ice lattes. And as you can see, we got a great customer in, and the banter is rolling strong, and we're just chatting away. And that's really that's really to me one of the greatest things about working in a coffee shop environment, is that you get to meet so many wonderful and interesting people throughout your day, day in, day out, months and years into it. It's still really exciting and fascinating to talk to the people that come in, and so I always enjoy it. And so the first up with these 3 drinks is going to be the house coffee. The house coffee is going to start that off because the house coffee is going to take the longest, right? It takes 4 minutes to brew. The ice lattes can take comparatively shorter amounts of time. So start brewing off the coffee and then get everything else. Get that rolling, and then we can get to everything else. So right now you see that I'm filling out the 12-ounce pitchers with about 6 ounces of milk. And it looks like it ran out of a little bit of milk. Oh, here we go. Here's something. We have this one particular day, we had an extra delivery of 2% milk. So we were able to offer our guests on this particular day 2% milk. So a couple of them were very happy with that. And so there we are, just going to adjust. Now we have to, once we get the milk all loaded into the pitchers, it's time to get everything else prepared. It's a pretty hot day today. This is at the end of May, towards the end of May. And so I have a hat that I keep around, this baseball cap, that helps to sweat the brow, right? Because it does get quite hot behind the bar. All right, back to the drink. We've got our cups. We're using 16-ounce plastic cups. We're filling them up completely with the milk. With the ice. And then now we're gonna steam the milk. I don't know what we're doing. Oh, these are vanilla ice lattes. So, got to put the vanilla syrup in. I like to put the vanilla syrup into the cup so that it will mix in as everything comes in. And plus, it also, if I do it early in the process, it helps to prevent me from forgetting to put the flavoring. So we can do this any flavor. We normally have vanilla, and everything we use, we pretty much make in-house with the exception of our maple syrup. But we do normally have vanilla. Sometimes we'll have the caramel, a caramel sauce, and then we typically have our own ganache for making mochas. And then every once in a while we'll have different flavors that we'll make up, maybe like a lavender. It all just kind of depends on the day and like what's going on and the season. So as you can kind of see, I'm steaming each of the milk pitchers. And if you've seen some of our previous videos, we steam the milk because we like the texture, and by lightly heating the milk, it also encourages greater sweetness, right? We improve the sweetness of the drink. So once that's done, time to get the coffee ready. So these are like the early drinks. Like this is the opening of the day. So these people walked in. So there's a couple of things I need to pull out, like the towels. Always have to have fresh towels. And then now it's time to grind up some coffee. We use the Mazzer Major grinder, which I think is a really great grinder overall. It's a classic. It's an old workhorse. It just takes a beating and keeps on going. I really can't say, there's a lot of companies that make really beautiful, fancy grinders nowadays that have a lot of high-tech features. I tend to like this. I think these produce great quality grinding to deliver delicious espresso. And that's why we also use the La Marzocco Linea. The Lineas are something we've always used, and they're really just durable, hardcore. They do the job. They deliver very well. They're always, like this particular machine, I've rebuilt twice completely from the ground up. So I got it used back in 2005, rebuilt it then, and then I think about 2017, probably 2016 or so, 2015, rebuilt it again from the ground up, and it's just a workhorse. So I'm really a big fan of these La Marzocco Lineas, and La Marzocco makes a lot of great machines nowadays. They make the GB5, they make the Strata, they make the Leva. These are all wonderful machines with newer degrees of technology and newer degrees of reliability. So any one of them in the La Marzocco line will work. So after we've ground the coffee, we're pulling the shots directly into the cup. As you can see, like this one's got that nice darkness from the coffee that's in there. Now we're just going to stir it up to make sure that the vanilla and the coffee and the milk get thoroughly mixed. That's really important to me, that we want to make sure the mix is really solid. Top it up a little bit, and then give it another stir. So as you can see, we've got this really nice color contrast. Dark, rich looking milk with white foamy top. I think it's just the way that coffee should be. This is how coffee really should be, in my belief. So as you can see, they look relatively uniform. Wipe off a little bit to make sure there's nothing to soil the guests' hands. Next up is a cappuccino for one of our regulars, David. David is our lawyer guy who comes in pretty regularly whenever he's in town, and so he likes a cappuccino without a lid. And someone asked me recently on the forums, or actually on one of the videos, had a question like, what do I prefer? Do I prefer cappuccino? Or do I prefer latte? And I do prefer the cappuccino over the latte. And why? Because mainly the cappuccino gives us a better balance of coffee to milk, and I think that's really the key for enjoyment of the coffee. Plus the rich sweetness of the milk, it's just really a great all-around drink. And there you go, a little bit of latte art on top, the nice little heart. I really like the hearts, and maybe some rosettas. And then next up is one of our other regulars who normally comes in on the weekends. Surprising to see him come in on a weekday. So Steve likes to come in and get himself and his wife he likes to get him and himself and his wife some lattes. So we try to make it. So really, when you're making multiple drinks, you want to try to focus and bring all the drinks together, as always. And so in this case, I'm putting the milk in the pitchers. Now I'm going to grind the 2 portafilters filled with coffee, and then we'll take it from there. That way, everything's staged and ready to go. And that all depends. Sometimes I may prepare the coffee first and then pull the shots while I'm getting the milk. It all just kind of depends on my mood and also what might be happening around. Like especially if I'm talking to the guest, engaging with the guest, then I might do it a different way. So as you can see here, we're pulling the shot into the cup, and then it's time to pull the next shot. In this case, it's taking a little bit longer than doing the 2 shots together. Mainly, I think that happened because, of course, the guest wants to talk and we're having a conversation. So sometimes that may slow down the actual making of the coffee. And, it's one of those things where as long as I think the guest is engaged, if it takes a few moments longer, it's not that big of a deal, especially if you're able to make a connection with them. And, the idea really is to the people, I believe that the guests are coming to us because they want a respite from their day. And so however we can give that respite and give that break and fulfill that desire, I think that's really the true goal of what we're trying to do here, along with providing, of course, great product. So there we go. Latte number 1 is ready, and time to steam. Shot number 2 is ready, finished, and now it's time to steam the milk and continue on. So I guess the hard part is, how do you continue a conversation while also, doing everything correctly? Like in this case, we're talking and steaming the milk and trying to get the right texture. So let's see how it turns out, if we can see what it goes on. Oh, not bad. Texture looks good. Yeah, look at a little bit of heart there, a little bit of halos around the heart. That's nice. I like it. I'm happy with that. All right, so after Steve's taken off and his 2 lattes are on the way, then it's time to make sure we clean up and get ready. And it looks like we've got 2 more lattes on order, so I'm going to reuse those pitchers right away. So rinse them out and get them going again. Some more milk coming out of the fridge. And let's bring them back and get to it. Just got to knock out the portafilters and rinse them out. So here's the thing. So what I always try to do is I try to knock out the coffee, rinse the basket, and then let it sit. I'll tend to rinse the basket and then put it back in the group head like I just did a moment ago, because I'm going to let any kind of residual water drip out. Otherwise, if I rinse the basket and take it straight to the grinder, there's always, even though no matter how fast I may do it, there's always an amount of water that's caught up inside the portafilter. So if I take it over to the grinder, there's invariably going to be dripping on the grinder, on the counter, which really just means that it's just creating more mess. So if I can give that few seconds inside the group head for the water to drip out, then that saves me making a mess and then that interrupting the workflow. And so it's things like this that, if you can prevent things from like making you stop. So in that case, if I drip water on the counter and then on the grinder, if there's some coffee grounds on there, that also gets wet and now it gets more dirty and everything just takes more time to clean. So I got to go back and clean that. This way, if I drain it inside the group head, all the water's contained in the drip tray, and it just saves me some time so that I can be more efficient. All right, so first drink's finished, poured out. A little bit of heart as well, not too bad looking. Then clean and purge the steam one, and let's do the second milk. Now, if you can see, I'm holding onto the pitchers, like at the bottom of the pitchers, but there's a point where the milk will get too hot, and I'll have to remove my fingers. So it starts slowing down, now right there. So that heat is now, I can hold it to a certain point, and I think that it's right around 160 degrees. So by the time that I'm letting go, really, and of course, a lot of that weight is being held on my right hand that's holding the pitcher handle. So I can just kind of feel with the left fingers, just by touching off and on, where the temperature is. And then it gets to a point where it's like, okay, we're done. All right, so drinks are served off again. And what's the big thing that we have to do when the guest leaves and we serve our drinks is really to clean up and get things back into order so that we can be prepared for the next guest and the next order, right? So sometimes you don't get, like the last time, we didn't really get this chance to like reset, kind of had to reset on the fly between the 2 orders of 2 lattes. Now that we have a few moments, rinse out the portafilters, rinse out the pitchers, that milk jug that's been sitting back there since the last order, time to heat that up and crush it. And this is something, I don't really remember where I learned this from, but I think it's a great way especially if you've got these milk pitchers, heat them up like this and scrunch them down. And then once it cools, it keeps them pretty compacted. So now I've got the drip, the knockbox, brush away all the excess grinds. You know, I think if some of you guys are home baristas that are used to these fancy dancy grinders, you'll probably be a little bit appalled by that there's some waste, but in my world, there's always going to be a little bit of waste. It's almost impossible to have zero waste, I believe. I know a lot of cafes do, and we manage it pretty well. Could be better, for sure. Could be better. Now, as you can see, we take a break while we're talking to one of our guests, have some questions. And it's a pretty warm day today, as you can see. I'm still wearing the hat. Anytime I'm wearing the cap, it's always going to be warm. All right, next up is the iced Genmaicha Tea. So pretty much any teas, we do have a black tea that's our quote-unquote iced tea, and that's always at the ready. If you're a guest and you come in and you have a particular taste for a different tea, like let's say this Genmaicha tea, which in this case is just a basic sencha with toasted rice, so it's really more of a Genma. Anyway, we will brew that for you, and so it's a relatively simple approach. Like our normal serving is about 12 ounces. So in this case, we're going to be using just about 6 ounces of water with the same amount of tea and the same steep time that we would normally use. So about 4 minutes. So we're taking a good like tablespoon's worth, about 2 grams, putting that into our tea brewer, and then adding the 6 ounces of water, letting that steep. Now I do leave the top off because in this case, we're going to make it ice, so we want the water, the liquid, to cool down we don't want to hold it at temperature or as close to temperature as possible. We do want the temperature to like dissipate off. So I leave the top off, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this is a great little tea brewer, especially for commercial tea brewing. It's called the VO1 from Mad Monk Tea in San Diego. These guys, crazy bunch of guys in this. Well, I haven't been there since in like 5 years, but little tiny shop in San Diego, and they created this great tea brewer, which is really easy to clean and really easy to manage. So, for example, it just has this has a perforated top for the nozzle, so it'll hold back most teas and works really great. And so next up, we got the ice. So basically, it's really just a simple process. We're going to let the tea steep. We're really brewing more of a concentrated brew because we're using really a small amount of water compared to the final product. And then once that timer's done, we're going to strain it off and pour it over ice, and the ice is going to chill it down. And the ice that melts will dilute the concentrated brew and bring the entire drink up to the correct brew strength that we're looking for. So in many respects, a lot of this has to do with, just understanding your brew ratios so that you can compensate for a heavier brew ratio with the volume of ice to bring the mixture right around the ideal strength. So we're getting close. I'm trying to give a nice stir, make sure everything's really well combined. All right, time to go. Timer's run out. And pouring. There it is. Bloop, 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 bloop. Easy enough, right? Easy enough. But a nice, delicious, like sencha base with a little bit of that roasted tea. That's really, really lovely. Really, really lovely. Add the cap. Oh, if I can get it on. And there it is. Off to the guest. I like to use the little basket strainer just because it just makes it faster. All right, next up, cold brew with cream and sugar. So sometimes our guest wants, sweetened and with milk. So we put that in there for them. And, our cold brew, we we've done a video where I showed you how we do the actual brewing of the cold brew. So as you already know, I just add a little bit we'll add the ice, then we're going to add some syrup to the bottom, and then we're going to add a little bit of more milk, or pour the cold brew first, are ready to use, diluted down from the concentrate that we brew, and then some milk to give it a little bit of creaminess on top. And you know, there's a lot of purists will talk about, oh, it should only be black, but you know, I think that there's a time and a place where sometimes sweetened, milky coffee is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Maybe this day is a great day for it. Nice and hot, a little bit sweaty. Nice, cool, milky drink to relax your day. So this one's a sweetened latte. This is really what I prefer. If a guest comes in and says, hey, could you make the latte sweet? Like, a lot of guests will come in, they'll order a drink, let's say like a latte or a cappuccino, and then after we've made the drink for them, then they'll say, oh, I want to put some sugar in. It's like, I really wish you had told me that, because really we want to make the drink ready to drink, right? So we want people to be able to come in and get their drink, and we're happy to add the sugar for you, so that all you have to do is worry about is drinking, and that's really it. And so in this case, we're going to add the sugar. So we add a demi-tasse spoonful of sugar. And if you want more than one spoonful, we'll give you 6. We'll give you however much you want. We'll just put that in there for you. And so why am I so into that? Because I want it to be fully incorporated into the drink. So I put the sugar in, pull the shot on top of it. Then we're going to add a little bit of milk, give it a nice stir to make sure everything's well combined before we pour. There it is, a little bit of milk. Now stir to combine. And then a nice pour to finish it off, and everything is really just ready to go. As a guest, you don't have to spend time trying to figure out how to do it yourself and hunt down spoons and all that and make a mess. And you can enjoy the latte art, and everything's just about enjoyment. It's about hedonism, right? We want you to be hedonistic about your drinking. Speaking of hedonistic, Finca Ortiz 1800. This is a single origin coffee that we sourced from the Ortiz sisters in the Tarrazú Valley. Great bunch of people down there. The father started the farm many years ago, and then the daughters, as they've gotten older, have started to take over the farm. You know, Joanna and Diana and Joyce now must be 21. When I first met them, the oldest, Joanna, was 21. So, yeah, but they make beautiful coffee. And this is from their Ortiz 1800 farm, which is at the 1800 meter mark, just above the Tarrazú Valley. They have their own beneficio, which is what we call a wet mill. And so they do all their processing and drying at their mill. And that's called the, can I remember it now? The Ortiz 1800 comes from, oh no. Anyway, but it's a wonderful coffee. And it'd be just a beautiful family to know, and they're really wonderful people, and so it's great to have their coffee. It's one of this one particular one is one of my favorite coffees, actually. So I always enjoy having it on the menu, and I always enjoy when guests really get to try it as well. And so in this case, we're brewing it in the Abbott cover, and that's something we kind of made the Abbott our default grinder, especially during the pandemic. It's a little bit easier, a little bit more hands-off. But if you're the kind of guest that really wants to explore coffee, we do have other brew methods available. We have the V60. Well, we have the conical brew pour-over style. We also have AeroPress and French press at the ready. So if you wanted to come in and try one coffee in different ways, we have that as well. You're not just limited by that. And as you can see, while the Ortiz is brewing, I'm also making up a Looks like I'm making a Americano. Although I'm dumping out some of the water, so I think that it might actually be an Olay. So how we do Olays is that because we make every coffee to order, and the brewed coffees are portioned out for full cup service, we actually make Americano Olays. So we make a really, really short Americano with steamed milk, and that's our standard Olay. So as you may be familiar, the regular, the old school Cafe au lait is basically some coffee with steamed milk. In this case, it's Americano with steamed milk. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult for me to manage moving the camera around to see everything that we're doing, especially when things are a little bit busy and I get a little bit distracted by the guest requests. So. Lately, I've really come to using that trash can, the rubbish bin, close to the grinder. I kind of like it in that position. It's slightly in the way. If you're doing multiple barista operations, like if there was 2 or 3 of us, I wouldn't keep it there. But when I'm flying solo like this, you'll see it there about half the time because I just like to have it in that position. It's a little bit easier for me to toss things. We actually have more setups where under normal operations, there's actually more receptacles for either rubbish or paper and recyclables. I tend not to use them during the COVID times when I'm all alone because it's just a different workflow, and it just means that I don't have as much to clean at the end of the day. All right, so after the coffee has reached its 3 minutes of steeping time in the clever, the alarm goes off. We put it in and sit it on top of the cup, and the cup flows, and the coffee flows through the filter. And it looks like we've got another order for another single origin. This looks might be the limoncillo, and so got another coffee to prepare. Weigh it out. And as you probably know already, we're using 24 grams of coffee to make a 12-ounce serving. And add a little bit of hot water, let it steep for about 30 seconds, let the bloom occur, and then break down the bloom with the water flow and the hot water to volume. And so it takes a moment for a little bit of time for the coffee to flow out of the clever and down into the cup. But that looks like it's about done. So I'll probably come back to it just as soon as this gets fully rolling. Yeah, there we go, right there. Done. The Ortiz is ready. I don't believe this Ortiz is, yeah, that's it. That's it, we're done. Just black, great choice. That's a great coffee to enjoy black. Some of our single origins, they're the ones that I really do encourage people to drink black rather than anything else, because it's just really the way that, these are coffees that we selected that because of their really delicious character. So I do think that milk especially, or cream, occludes some of that flavor, right? Then there's other coffees that we have, like our house blend and our espresso, that are kind of designed to go with milk. So they're great coffees to be drank black, or just as like a straight shot of espresso. But I think they're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful coffees when paired with milk. And those are the ones that I think are really, that we do encourage people to try with milk if possible, or if they want. All right, so now we've got the guest does want to have a little bit of milk in their coffee, so we're going to put a little bit in there. I like to add the milk or any of the additives before the coffee is finished brewing, so that way it gets thoroughly combined. And really, it's always about, having the drink prepared in the way that the guest would like. by the time they receive it, so that all they have to do is drink. Really, that's really my whole thing, is that we just want you to be worried about drinking. That should be really the task at hand for most of our guests, is just getting the drink and drinking it and enjoying it. All right, there it is. Now that's done, all looking good, already combined, perfect. Hand it to the guest, and all is good, and it's off on its way. There it is, quick flick to get rid of the coffee, rinse it out, put it down in the way, out of the way. It'll dry off a bit, and now it's time for the iced matcha latte. This is a drink that I really like overall. It does take some time to prepare. So we have our matcha powder from Japan. We're going to add that into the traditional vessel, which I can't remember the name now offhand for some reason. And then we sift it to make sure that it gets fully, so there's no clumps in the powder, and just makes it nice, the texture nice. It prevents clumping, and it just makes it easier to make the drink. So I'll use the little spoon there to help encourage the flow through the mesh strainer.
It's a 4-ounce drink total, too. Whereas Starbucks is, of course, 12 ounces. But if you prefer,
it was really important for us to make a nice quality matcha. And if we were going to offer matcha, I didn't want to do anything like the way a lot of other shops do that have like prepared matcha, or something like that, a little bit of bowls of matcha, whatever they have. We wanted to make it the traditional way. And that justifies the price that we charge. So as you can see, I add a little bit of water, started to hydrate the tea, added more water, and now we're doing whisking. The whisking actually is a W shape. As you can see, as you've noticed, I'm going slightly back and forth in a W shape. And that's helping to aerate the coffee, the tea, and give it foam. That really nice foam that you see. And I got this, I did a tour in Tokyo several years back where I went to a couple places, matcha, I think it was called Matcha House, in the outer part of Tokyo, close to the Ghibli studios. And then there's a place called, what was it called? Ippudo. There's a place that's in Ginza that's a tea shop from Kyoto that's very serious. So went to those places, and then I also went to the Sakurai tea experience in Omotesando. That was, those three experiences combined were really instrumental in helping me to understand really how we should approach making matcha, because matcha has this beautiful flavor if you have nice quality, where a lot of places, they really don't. So that was really important for us to have nice quality. So get the matcha done. Another guest comes in, wants a house coffee, getting that rolling.
So just the 2 drinks for you guys, is that right?
Got to keep it a little bit, stir it up a little bit more just to make sure the foaminess holds. Now, it's not terribly ideal that it sits for this long. I don't really like to keep it that way, but sometimes you're just getting a little bit run over by other requests and everything that's happening. And so also next is to get we got to steam the milk and fill a cup of ice, pour the steamed milk over this. Again, we're using the steamed milk because we want to sweeten the milk itself, give that a little more sweetness to it, and we want to capitalize on the milk foam texture that goes along with the foaminess of the matcha, right? And just like you see with the lattes, we'll actually take the matcha and we'll pour it down through the cup and then mix it together so that it's got a nice green body and a foamy white top. Unfortunately, it looks like I didn't get the chance to pull the camera over to see it to serve the coffee, so my apologies that we didn't get to see it and after watching the preparation.
Oh, wonderful.
But also to get time to put it all away, rinse it out, push everything to the side, put it away so that it's all ready to go and really just out of the workspace. And then now we've got our coffee with cream and sugar, So add the sugar, add some of the milk, and then it'll be ready whenever the steeping is done. So meanwhile, we've got some drinks going on. Not sure what we're making over there, but we'll see. Looks like we're making a milk drink. Looks like a small pitcher, so probably making another cappuccino. If we can see the picture, we'll know exactly. And again, my apologies, we don't have the camera showing off what we're doing. All right, the beeping's starting. So it's time to go. So while making the cappuccino, just pull off the lid a little bit to give some room for air displacement, and then place on the cup and just pour it on down. And that coffee is now pouring on top of the milk, combining with the milk, and then heating up. Of course, the hot coffee is now melting the sugar that's at the bottom of the cup. And so afterwards it's done, it'll just be a quick stir to make sure that it's fully combined and ready to go for the guest. All right, there it is. A little bit of stirring now. All right. Drop the cap on, and it's ready to go for the guest. Perfect. Perfect. Just what we were looking for. Just what we're looking for. All right, next up is twin Americanos. Americanos are really kind of my favorite of the espresso drinks. I really like the way Americanos have this nice, rich body and just good flavor, especially at Spro. With our espresso, of course, I'm biased. I'm always biased. But sometimes I do like Americano with cream and sugar. Like I said earlier, there are some of our blends we design with the idea that it can be used well with cream and sugar. And I think the espresso in an Americano, especially a short Americano, like a 6-ounce Americano with a little bit of cream and a little bit of sugar, man, that can be beautiful, especially if you're having that for breakfast with maybe a pastry, like a muffin, like a blueberry muffin, or even if you're having eggs and bacon with pancakes or whatever. Oh, I think it's really just a lovely way to do it. And in this case, we got two of them. And it's really simple. That's the beauty of this drink, is that it's so simple. You just have the hot water and then the espresso that we float on top. And this is the thing that I guess I don't understand about other people, is that, you've got this opportunity to make this beautiful drink, meaning that you can you can make an Americano with the beautiful crema of the espresso floating on top. And visually, I think it's just stunningly beautiful, instead of just like regular brown liquid, right? But a lot of places, what they'll do is they'll pull the shot into the cup and then add the hot water later. Like you can see here, look at that. Look at that brown crema. That just looks great. I think that's just really, that's really what we want. To me, that's super exciting to see. And so I always think that, like, whether it's coffee or food or beverage or whatever it is, it's a visual stimulation as well. It's not just, consumption of food and drink is a sensory exploration. It's like sensory, indulgence. And so not only are we indulging our sense of smell and our sense of taste by the drink, but we also want to indulge our sense of sight. Like, if it looks beautiful and delicious, then it's enticing, right? And I think that's the key with Americano, where they were able to float the crema on top and make it look really pretty, which is really an indication that the coffee is going to be good. Because in order for you to get really nice crema, you have to have really nice coffee, because white, washy crema and the lack of crema is an indication that the coffee has just not been done well. It could just be a mistake on the part of the barista, and that certainly does happen. And hopefully you're the kind of barista that when you see that happening, you're confident in what you're doing, that you can make that change. Or more importantly, if you're a barista working in a shop, your ownership is comfortable enough that you can make the decision that, hey, this is not up to our standards. We're going to toss it and start again. All right, honey macchiato. This is a great little drink. One of my favorites also. This is actually a drink that was called Sweetness originally and it was the signature drink in the United States Barista Championship in 2004, where my friend Bronwyn Cerna used this as one of her drinks to win and become the U.S. Barista Champion that year. But it's such a deceptively simple drink. It's basically a demi-tasse spoon's worth of honey with at the bottom of the demi-tasse cup, you pull the espresso on top, and then you add steamed, in her case, it was half and half. In our case, we're using milk. The half and half steam gives just a little bit more of that creaminess to it, but the milk is beautiful as well. And here's the interesting thing. Again, it's one of those things where all of our drinks are very simple, so really the ingredients make all the difference, right? You need to have great coffee. You need to have nice quality water. You need to have great milk. You need to have great honey, because there's only really 4 ingredients, right? So you need to have everything good. And sometimes we have tried variations. Like we had this one honey from Italy once, this walnut-based honey, and it was just so funky, strange, and weird that I really didn't like it. Like I thought it made a pungent, funky flavor in the macchiato that I really didn't enjoy. However, we offered to the menu and people ordered it. People loved it. Some people loved it. It's kind of, I guess it must be one of those things where it's like cilantro. Some people love cilantro. Some people hate cilantro, right? So I love cilantro. My brother hates it. But you can explore with something as simple as this, different honeys, different espresso, different milk qualities. And that's the beauty of something like this, that you can go in so many directions, even though it seems so deceptively simple. And even it's such a simple drink that's such a pretty drink on its own, that even if you use the most common commercial ingredients, it's still going to be an enjoyable drink. Right? You don't have to necessarily have these, artisanal, like sourced and whatever honey. You can just use commercial honey if you want. You can use commercial milk if you want. You can use, I guess, Folgers if you really want. And it'll still be a fun drink, but there's so many ways to explore it.
Handsome and wealthy. This is handsome and what
Oh, here we are.
Right? With the mascot.
With mask.
Wealthy. Successful.
Single.
World class.
And single.
Single and available.
Excellent.
Available 65-year-old bachelor.
All right, I'll put that on the blog. We'll put that on the blog.
Okay. Just a matter of time until you get lots of hits.
So I thought I'd offer a little bit of a personal ad in. So that's Mark. Mark is one of our regulars now. He moved to Baltimore back in August of 2020. So during the pandemic, he came here on a fellowship. He's a retired professor from the University of Illinois Champaign. I believe his field of expertise is in history. Not sure if it's European or American or what part of history. But, he comes in, and so if you're someone looking for a date that would like a date, well, let me know, and we'll put you in touch. So yeah, that's us. We're matchmakers. We find great coffees and find matches for people. Actually, it's really nice to hear stories from some of our guests. Like, there's a couple of guests that I can think about offhand that had their first date with us, and they had nice romances. I mean, I don't hear from the guests that had first dates with us and it was just disasters. I would like to hear, actually, if you've been to Spro and you had a first date and it was a total disaster, please let me know. I'd love to hear your story. Maybe that's something we can make a video about. Tell us your disastrous love stories at Spro.
What's that?
Yeah, I could do that. All right, so next up is a iced vanilla. Oh, it looks like cold brew. Cold brew. Iced vanilla cold brew. And you may have noticed that in some of these titlings, we're using cold brew, we're using iced coffee. We're not really sticking to one or the other, because mainly we don't really make that distinction too difficult, right? You go to some coffee places And they're sticklers for their terminology. They want you to say everything a certain way. It has to be a tall. It has to be whatever it may be, right? At Spro, we're not like that. We're really just kind of like here to bring you beautiful coffees for you to enjoy and hopefully provide you a nice environment that you can enjoy the coffee in. And if you want to come in and say, hey, I need an iced coffee, or I would like a cold brew. Okay, great. We've got that. So it's really, we want to make it simple, right? So I hope that makes sense. All right, so the cold brew's gone, and now it's an iced latte. This is a pretty hot day, so we put out a lot of iced lattes today.
So what you got it with?
But again, it's one of those things where I think the iced latte, again, is about visual stimulation, right? We want the sweet, creamy milk with the white cappy top. We missed that one, unfortunately. I need to remember in the future videos to like show the drink, especially if it's sitting slightly out of the camera range, so that all of you guys can see it. It's kind of a robbery if you don't really get to see the drinks that we're making, especially if you're standing here listening to me banter about it. Then I do appreciate you if you've been watching our series and you enjoy this and you've been listening and watching. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate you. I hope this is giving you some insight into what we do and how we do it. Okay, next up is iced coffee, which is really simple. So clean up the machine a little bit. And now time to get the glass, the cup, and some of the ice, right? Of course, the ice maker is right behind the camera position, so I have to reach around the camera to access the ice and get intimate with the lens. All right, so pour up some of this iced coffee that we've got prepared. Again, it's the Perla Negra from Nicaragua, an anaerobic fermented coffee that converts the lactic acids into the malic acids into lactic acids. And the guest does want to have a little bit of cream, a little bit of milk in the drink. So add that, give it a stir, or in this case, I guess not. Sorry if you wanted that stir. I don't know why I didn't stir it. My apologies.
I loved your baked goods.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I would like a cold brew.
All right, next up is the cold brew, another cold brew. Again, most everything we're making today is on ice because, man, it's a hot day. It's a hot day. It's one of those Baltimore hot days. It's like, the temperature's pretty hot, like maybe close to 90. But it's the humidity. The humidity in Baltimore is always the one that's tough, right? It's just got high humidity, so you really feel the sweatiness of it. All right, looks like we're having, the guest would like some water, so I'll offer them some water, and then back to the cold brew. Prior to the COVID, we actually had open water service for our guests. We would keep chilled bottles of water on the counter with glasses. So if you were a guest and you were in, you just come and grab a glass and grab some water. And if you want to take the bottle to your table, you're welcome to do it. However, with the pandemic, we kind of, pulled most of all that out of service, mainly because, people don't really want to touch the bottles and all that. So it limits contact with product and vessels to just myself, to our staff and us. And so it's a little bit better in that respect during the pandemic. All right, Vietnamese iced coffee it is. So we're doing Vietnamese iced coffee. My favorite drink. So we're going to use about 30 grams or so of sweetened condensed milk. And so for this particular drink, I like the Longevity brand sweetened condensed milk. It's from Southeast Asia, and it's kind of got a little bit of a different flavor than, let's say, like the Carnation or Borden's. And it's a flavor that I think is a little bit more, quote-unquote, authentic for the drink because it's from that region. It's also one that a lot of places there use, from what I've been told. I personally have not been to Vietnam, but my friends were there that told me this. So put that in there. We actually use our night watch coffee, which is our darkest roast coffee for this drink, because for this particular coffee, we want something really robust. Like if we compare and typically you go to places here in the United States that, like restaurants, Vietnamese restaurants, they're typically using Cafe du Monde, which has chicory, and some of them that are spending a little bit more money are using the Trung Nguyen, which is a brand from Vietnam. And while the Cafe du Monde has the chicory, the Trung Nguyen has a chocolate flavoring added to it. So this gives it this kind of, interesting flavors, right? For our version of Vietnamese iced coffee, Cafe Sua Dam, we decided not to go with anything like that. We wanted to go with our darker roasted coffee, because that's really going to stand up against the darker roasting is going to stand up against the heavy duty, like sweet condensed milk, right? Well, as you can see in the back there, I'm actually making I'm converting some of the concentrate into RTU cold brew. But anyway, back to the Vietnamese iced coffee. So we use our Night Watch, and the Night Watch is a really nice quality coffee that we buy, and we just give it a darker roast. And so it's really something that's of high quality to begin with. Whereas a lot of roasters, they like to use really cheap coffees that already have a negative taste performance for their dark roast. And their thinking is that, people that drink dark roast, well, either they don't know the difference or they don't deserve the difference. For us, we just don't believe in that. It's like, if you want to buy coffee from us, we want to offer you high quality coffee. So we've always offered our equivalent quality coffee for our dark roasted Night Watch as any of the other coffees that are on the menu. And that's really been an important factor for us. But there it is. We got the Vietnamese iced coffee. It's almost finished. And another guest wants to have the cold brews. We've got that rolling. Prepare up another batch of cold brew. And so since we're using we have concentrates in reserve, those concentrates are just a 1-to-1 mix. So you put 1 quart of the concentrated cold brew, and then 1 quart of water, and that gives you 2.5 gallon of ready to use, and it's just beautiful like that. So there it is. I'm just waiting for it to finish. Actually, in this one, I don't think we get to see the finished product. And, my apologies again, because here we are. We've got this video, our 6-1, and we still can't seem to be showing all of we're actually doing worse now. I think we're showing less of the finished drink than in the other ones. But anyway, thanks for watching. Really appreciate you spending the time with us today. I hope this has been enjoyable. Please let us know in the comments below what you think, what you'd like to see. If there's any questions you might have, we're happy to answer them. And I want you all to know that we really appreciate you spending the time with us. Please subscribe. We'd like to do at least 1,000 subscribers here in 2021. That'd be really helpful. So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.